Okay.
Okay, this is an interview with Morris Weinstein, Latham, New York, DMNA headquarters. It is the 29th of October, 2003, approximately 9 a.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clarke. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Morris Weinstein, born in Brooklyn, New York, 9/27/17.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
A couple of years of college.
All right. Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
It was in New York. I was shocked because I was in Pearl Harbor. He had enlisted. I never heard from him again. I knew that the world was going to change.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted. I tried to enlist in the Navy, figuring I'd plan because you get a better rating in the Navy and better training, I thought, and better food, I heard. I tried to enlist in the Navy. I failed because of my eyesight. The medic there told me to eat carrots for 2 weeks and come back, and maybe my eyesight would improve. I ate carrots for 2 weeks till I turned yellow, came back, my eyesight was the same. So I gave up on the Navy, and I was immediately drafted into the Army.
Okay. Where were you inducted and where did you go for your basic training?
I think I was inducted at Camp Upton. I'm not sure. I went for my basic training in Camp Pickett, Virginia. And I remember the heavy red mud there and the hiking. And I always kept thinking, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to drop out of the hiking. But there was a fellow in front of me, skinny and emaciated, and looked as if he would get tired fast. I said, if he drops out, I'm going to drop out. He never dropped out. So I completed basic training, hoping against hope I would complete the hikes, but I did. The rest of the training was very confusing because I was left-handed, and when they made you march, they made you turn to the right, to the left, and they said it very fast. And when I was trying to figure things out, they were already marching in a different direction. So I finally did make it, though, and I was immediately whisked to, they asked me what I wanted to do. Did I have any skills? I said, I can type 30 words a minute. My parents had told me that if you learn how to type, you can always get a job in an office. I could type 30 words a minute. They immediately told me, well, they're going to put me in a clerical unit. I said I'd rather die than be in a clerical unit during the war. So they said, all right, we'll put you in the medics. So I was fortunate. They immediately sent me to Camp Benjamin Harrison in Indianapolis. I got medic training, and then I thought, well, now I'm going to be sent to other schools.
What kind of training, how extensive was the training that you received?
It was medical work, laboratory work, general first aid, all around medical training.
How long did this last?
3 months, exactly. And then I was ready now to lounge around the United States and other camps like my friends were doing. And I was sent to some port near Pennsylvania, and we were immediately loaded on the best cruise liner in the world, the Queen Elizabeth. I was kind of surprised to be sent overseas so quickly, but they were preparing for the invasion. The Queen Elizabeth was the first ship that didn't have a convoy attached to it. It was the biggest ship in the world at the time. They had converted it into a area, and it was going way up north, and then crossing the North Atlantic and going to England. With 55,000 soldiers on board, it was kind of crowded. It was like a sardine can on the deck. Everybody was mobbed on the deck, and for sleeping, we were placed on E deck, which was 5 decks down. Was where the ship came to a point on the bottom. And I looked at it and I thought, if we were ever torpedoed, here I am on E deck, 5 decks below the water. I'll never make it. We had berths, hammocks, I think 5 or 6 levels up, and we slept in, we took turns sleeping in the hammocks. So we allowed 6 hours sleeping in the hammock, then we went up on deck and the next shift went down to sleep. I didn't get much sleep because I kept looking at the only door in the hole down there, which was a big steel door bolted shut. And I figured, if we were hit by a torpedo, everybody was going to try to get out of that door, and nobody's going to make it. So I always had my eye on the door, wondering how I could get out of there if anything happened. I didn't get much sleep in my berth, but I slept up on the deck. There were always rumors that we were being followed by submarines, and we were the only ship that went without a convoy because they wanted to keep it secret. So we kept looking at the water, looking for submarines continually, and that kept us occupied. I think it took us about a week to cross the ocean. We landed in Scotland, a little village, and from there we were whisked down to different parts of England.
Now, were you assigned to a unit?
I think I was put on detached duty to a small unit. I don't remember the name of it. There were about 20 of us. We traveled around England setting up hospital units, setting up supplies, and all the tents and everything for hospitals. I was there about, I would say, close to a year. And there were rumors of the invasion taking place. Then finally, my impressions of England were the people were enormously courageous. They had been bombarded continuously and by German planes. By the time I got there, the Germans started using V1s. And I thought, the world has never seen weapons like this. They were like jet planes. They went rather slow. They would come overhead and clatter like a locomotive. Then when they stopped, when the sound stopped, you knew they were going to fall, and everybody would hold their breath and wait to see if they would be hurt. They were very powerful. They could blow up literally a whole block when they fell. Anyway, I decided, I got a furlough at one stage, went to London to see if I could find a kosher delicatessen to get kosher frankfurters as a change from army fare, and that's how I saw London. I got to a kosher deli finally, after going through bomb attacks and all, and the hot dog turned out to taste not like a hot dog. So I asked them what kind of hot dog it was, what kind of meat it had in it. He said, we don't put meat in, we put cereal in. Oh, I was disillusioned, traveling so many miles, going on the V1 bombardment in order to get that kind of a hot dog. But I noticed that the people there slept in subways. They went around their work. We were under bombardment when I was there, and people were matter of fact about it. They knew how to handle it. They were very, very courageous. Uh, Anyway, I had seen a lot of England. I traveled by Jeep, and that was the dream of every GI, to drive a Jeep. I drove a Jeep. I drove a big trailer truck carrying supplies. I was very happy doing those things. We were locked up in a camp, and we knew the real invasion was going to be on, because nobody was permitted to go in or out. We weren't permitted to send emails, we weren't permitted to make calls, nothing at all. And then the invasion took place. Several weeks later, I went across on a landing craft, and the Army, in its wisdom, knew that we were going to get seasick because the English Channel was so rough. So they gave us Dramamine pills. So we didn't get seasick, but we went to sleep. And when we got to Normandy, we were staggering all over the place, groggy, but not seasick. Then I was attached to a field hospital where we set up tents, and this was before St. Lo. I was sent on detached duty to the 3rd Armored Battalion, 3rd Command, outside of St. Lo. I traveled around the villages there. What was outstanding was the dangerousness of Normandy. All of Normandy seemed to be mined. We got casualties, more from mines than anything else. GIs were stepping on mines. One of the first scenes I saw in Normandy was a cow in a tree. He had been blown up in a tree. The first casualty I saw was, well, this kid was on patrol with his captain. The captain stepped on a mine. He was killed immediately, and the kid was wounded, brought in. He was crying. He saw that the captain had been killed. He felt very bad about it. You know, it was terrible. Those were the first casualties I saw. The hedgerows, Normandy had hedgerows which are about 9 feet tall, very tall, and the Germans had machine gun emplacements behind them. But by the time I got there, most of the machine gunners had been routed. And they were very good barriers for the Germans. The American tanks came through with sort of steam shovel-like equipment on it and plowed right through the hedgerows. That was the only way the Americans could get through. The fighting was all taking place in Normandy then, and we had penned the Germans up in a field, in a forest. I think it was the Hurtgen forest in Normandy. And we were penned up because we couldn't get through. The Germans had controlled the access to it. One day we saw planes coming over, and I've never seen so many planes in my life. There are about 5,000 planes, rumor had it, wave after wave. The sky was black. They were all American planes, and they bombed the Hurtgen forest where the Germans were outside of St. Lo. And that's how we made the breakthrough. Many Germans were killed. Many came out shell-shocked. That finally did it. I remember the villages in France, very quaint. I remember seeing a French funeral with a horse-drawn hearse. I had never seen anything like it before. We saw Saint-Mire-d'Église, which is an unusual little French town, where they had a cathedral that seemed to be standing in the ocean. At high tide, the cathedral was in the ocean by itself. At low tide, you could walk to the cathedral. So it was one of the sights we saw. No, we went through Normandy. One of the fellows with us captured a German paymaster, and he got two satchels full of money. So he put his guns down, and he went through Normandy carrying satchels of money, figured now he had it made. Meanwhile, the United States had issued a special script so the German money wouldn't be useful. And this poor guy was carrying heavy satchels through Normandy of useless currency. One of the ironies of war.
Now, how close to the front were you?
Well, it was all around us. The battle was all around us. The front was very fluid. Being with medic units, we were more in the back, not. But in fact, I never knew where the front was because of there were more artillery shells and V1s than anything. I remember Patton's army coming through. They had the supplies carried by the Red Ball Express, they called it. And and they were passing us going up front. We asked them what they thought of General Patton. They said, yeah, blood and guts Patton, our blood, his guts. And everybody had a good laugh about it. We kept, we were there for a couple of months, I think, till the breakthrough. And then we thought we were finally going to get out of the area and go to Paris. We were going to capture Paris next. And we were all set for the big city. We hadn't seen any cities, being in Normandy all this time. I think de Gaulle made arrangements so that only he would go in Paris and capture it for publicity purposes. So we bypassed Paris. I thought that's ironic. We never get into a city to enjoy ourselves. From France, we went into Belgium, and then the Germans had developed V-2 rockets, which were deadlier than the V-1s. I thought the V-1s were the deadliest thing known to man. The V-2s would go up they were about 15 feet long. They were rockets, not planes. They would go up about 60 miles and then just plummet right down. They were the opposite of the V-1 because they made no sound at all, and you never know what hit you till it hit you. They were very powerful. And they used that on London too, and they used that in Belgium extensively. In Belgium, we were outside of Antwerp somewhere. They were using the V-2s around Antwerp. Finally, I think it was around December 44, we heard the Germans were making a breakthrough. They needed more troops. They had taken a lot of fresh young combat troops from the United States. People were just in basic training, and they were trying to send them to Belgium to fill all the vacancies and all, but they didn't have enough. So they took about 200 of us. They gave us infantry training. They said, don't wear the Red Cross armband on your arm because it's too good a target. It's supposed to make you invulnerable, but they said it's a target. We got 2 weeks of infantry training, and again, being left-handed, it was a disadvantage because I used an M1 Garand, and when I held the rifle, the bullets would be whisked off to the shells would be whisked off to the right under my nose. Now, I held the rifle away from my face, As a result, I was shooting all over the place. I never hit the target. Well, he said, well, you can't go in the infantry till you hit the target. So I said, I can't. I got to hold the rifle at a distance here. So the hot shells wouldn't whisk under my nose. Oh, the sergeant said, oh, we'll take care of that. He took the rifle from my hands. He shot into the target 3 times. He put the rifle back in my hands and said, you hit the target. I said, I didn't hit the target. You hit the target. He said, your rifle is supposed to hit the target. Your rifle hit the target. So I was in. So they packed us on the trucks. They sent us off. By now it was winter. Conditions were really miserable. It was foggy, blizzard, snow, sleet, everything.
Now, did you have winter gear?
Yeah, we had winter gear, but we were on these trucks. They sent us out to the Ardennes area. On the way, we were directed by MP to another road, and then we heard later on that the Germans were sending paratroopers disguised as MPs. So it's probably a German who directed us onto some road. Oh, we got lost. So it was every man for himself. So we tried to make our way back to where we were. So it took about a week, and it was totally chaotic, totally chaotic. You didn't know who was who. There was no place to sleep, no place to eat. What we did was sleep in the cellars of farmhouses, because the houses themselves were being bombed by both sides. And finally, I got back to my outfit through going that way and hitchhiking. Then I wound up in Germany, in Aachen. And my view of Aachen, which was a border town, was a trolley car lying on its side. And I thought, well, a very unusual sight. And from there, I went to Cologne, which was the furthest I went into Germany. And I noticed it was extensively bombed, everything but a cathedral. And there are rumors that they were told to bomb everything but the cathedral. I don't know why it was that way, but Cologne was pretty much destroyed otherwise. That was the extent of it. And I was in that area when the war ended and VE Day. And they announced, we thought, well, now we'll go home quickly. They announced the point system, where I think those with the most points, I think 60 points, would go home, veterans who had done everything. These were the veterans who were in Africa first, then they came on the invasion and went through Europe. They were discharged. The next group was considered seasoned veterans whose expertise was needed. They would not go home. As luck would have it, I was in the 30 group, so I wasn't supposed to go home. And the other group, below 30 points, were people who had come over recently, and they would be in the Army of Occupation. And I thought, what luck. They come over and they're getting the best deal, the Army of Occupation. Anyway, I went to Marseille, and from there went on to a Liberty ship and came across the ocean. I remember coming back, we came into Boston Harbor. We were greeted by a shipload of wax singing Sentimental Journey, and it'll always stick in my mind. I could see very vividly the boat coming toward us, and we felt like heroes there, waving our caps and everything else. And we were all in brand new uniforms, because on the way across we had to look good. Everybody was told to get rid of all their clothing. I think they threw it in the ocean. I thought, but my clothing is good, my underwear is good, my uniform is good. But the orders were, take everything, get rid of it, all new uniforms. So we're all spick and span new uniforms. And then we landed, We felt like heroes. They were taking pictures. And we were told to immediately apply for, if we didn't have a job, to apply for the, I think what they called it, the 2020 Club.
5220.
5220 Club, yeah. So we got $20 a week, we applied, and I looked around, tried to get a job, couldn't, so I went under the GI Bill, went back to college. Everybody in college was a GI, and I've never seen such highly motivated people. They're really serious about getting careers, and it was a whole wave. But then when you were in the service, everybody was young, and it looked as if the whole world was young. The oldest fellow in my outfit was a barber. He was 30 years old.
You must have been close, though, with being 20, well, you were about 25 when you enlisted.
About 23 or so.
Were you?
Yeah. But he looked older. Somehow 30 seemed to be old. And he enlisted. He wasn't drafted. He enlisted, so he thought he could make money as a barber in the service, which he probably did. I would say I learned how to eat in the Army. Before I was drafted, I drank only a cup of tea in the morning. The thought of food turned me off. And when I took basic training, they had these big breakfasts with scrambled eggs, bacon, home-fried potatoes, all greasy, a lot of bread. And I couldn't stand the look of it. But little by little, I started eating it. And within a couple of weeks, I looked forward to it every day, having these magnificent meals. I was one of the few guys in the service who really loved Spam. I'd make Spam sandwiches. Everybody would sneer. They'd want, steak and chicken. And I was very happy with Spam. I always kept Spam sandwiches in my foot locker for emergency, prepared for anything. Then one Thanksgiving in England, they had saved all the turkeys. Nobody in America was getting turkey. They were shipping it over to our boys in England. And everybody was looking forward to getting turkey. I hated turkey. I hated chicken. So they gave me Spam on Thanksgiving. And I was very happy with it. Everybody was kidding me. They thought I was crazy. And I was piling the Spam on, figuring I'll cut it up, make sandwiches, do everything with it. The turkey turned out to be semi-raw when it was cooked. So everybody was very unhappy with the turkey. And some of my Spam was stolen. So fortunately for them, I had saved some of it. And also, I loved the C rations and K rations they had. They had them little tuna-like cans. It was, they had corn, pork loaf, and all this kind, and everything was a sort of a paste. But I loved it somehow. I loved the seasoning in it. They would always give me their emergency rations. I would give them cigarettes. I always had a supply of food. I knew no matter what happened to me in the Army, I wasn't going to starve. Incidentally, in the Army overseas, we used cigarettes as barter instead of money. We paid, I think, 50 cents a carton, but when you're in a combat zone, you got the cartons free. So we used to do that and get native products like Calvados, which is a kind of cider or.
It's like a brandy, I believe.
No, it's, what do you call it? It's made of apple, it's a whiskey made of apples. Calvados was the brand name. Anyway, in France, Calvados was made by the farmers. The fellows would send me to pick up they would order bottles of Calvados, 3 bottles, 6 bottles, but they were very particular. They wanted only 3-star Calvados. I would go over and tell the fellow I wanted 3-star Calvados. He'd take take bottles. I said, but this is 1 star. He said, it's going to be 3 stars. He took off the labels, he put on 3-star labels, and we brought home 3-star Calvados. I told the other guys about it. They tasted it. They said, oh, well, it's the same thing. It's 3-star Calvados. So that was the kind of merchandising that was going on among the peasants. They loved white bread. We had white bread. They thought white bread was the greatest invention ever. And we loved the European breads, which are very hearty and whole wheat breads. So we used to trade the white bread for whole wheat bread. Everybody had a good time with it. I got to learn about how a lot of people lived. And I found it all very exciting in the whole new world. My impression was that we were like chips on the water. Everything was luck. Whether you lived or died or where you went or what you did, it was just a crap toss. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And I came out really overall feeling I've been a great adventure, and I went on from there with my life. Completed.
You mentioned in this forum that you had met the French underground?
Yes. In France, I met this fellow. He was a Jewish underground resistance fighter, and he was very fearless. But he came to us one night out of the darkness, and I happened to be there when he was there, and he said, his name was Henri, and he said, listen, my girlfriend is in the United States. Send her, do you have a relative? Send her a message that I'm okay, and then let me know if you get an answer. So we were supposed to meet in a week. I sent a letter to somebody in the United States to contact his girlfriend, and she did, and said the girlfriend was living in Greenwich Village and was doing okay. And we were supposed to meet in a week. This fellow, Henri, never came back. So, I often think of what happened to him, and...
Now, he was French?
He was French, yeah.
How did you communicate?
English.
English? Okay.
Yeah, he had a French accent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you also mentioned that you were slightly wounded?
Outside of Antwerp in the fields, when a V1 fell, I was grazed by shrapnel, lightly grazed. But I figured I put a Band-Aid on it, actually, and didn't think anything of it. Afterward, I was told by fellows who knew that you should have checked into a hospital, and then you would have been a wounded veteran. Mm-hmm. You get a Purple Heart, and all the benefits. But I didn't learn the ropes till afterwards.
Okay. You told a lot of things that I was going to ask you about. Did you ever join any veterans organizations after?
Jewish war veterans. Yeah.
Were you aware of the existence of concentration camps?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I never saw them, but we were aware of it, and we saw pictures of Eisenhower showing the troops, the concentration camps.
Okay. Do you recall where you were and your reaction when you found out about the death of President Roosevelt?
Yeah, I was in Europe. It was a total shock, and it was like losing a sort of father figure, felt, what is the United States going to do without him? It was very shocking.
How about the dropping of the atomic bombs? Did you have a reaction to that?
I was back in the United States on a 30-day furlough, and I was supposed to report to San Francisco for an invasion of Japan. And I figured, that's ironic. I'm always in the wrong place at the wrong time. I get an invasion of Normandy, I'm there, Europe, now Japan. Things aren't going right, but 30-day furlough. While I was on the 30-day furlough of August 1945, I guess, yeah, they had dropped the bomb on Japan. Then my orders were changed. They said, stay another 30 days and report to Camp Crowder, Missouri, I think it was. Oh, when I heard the bomb, I felt very relieved now knowing that I wasn't going to have any more adventures. I'd had enough of them, and felt very good about it. And I knew the war was going to end. They sent me to Camp Crowder by train. Again, they gave me a new uniform again, which I didn't really need, and then they sent me home with a discharge.
Okay. You brought in some photographs. If you like, all you have to do is hold them up like this in front of you, and Wayne will be able to focus in on each one of them. And maybe if you want to tell about each one and describe it.
Okay. This photograph is a picture of me completing my basic training. In honor of completing basic training, I took my picture.
Okay. Got it.
This is a photo of a field hospital in France in 1944.
Okay.
This is a photo of a GI in front of a Jeep in England.
Okay.
This is the main square in Brussels.
Okay.
And this is Antwerp, a building in Antwerp. A V-2 rocket had landed about a half mile away, and the windows of the building are shattered. And other buildings around it were destroyed from the force of the VA.
Okay.
One last question. Did you ever stay in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
No, we didn't, interestingly enough. We scattered to the four winds all over. While we were in the service, we were very close. We lived together. We enjoyed each other. But we never really got in touch.
Have you ever gone to any kind of reunions or anything?
No. No reunions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your interview.